In this video, we're going to look at comparing fractions, and then we're going to compare some fractions. So the first thing that we need to talk about when we start looking at fractions is what exactly is a fraction? Well, a fraction is a part of something. It's not the whole. So whenever you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, you're talking about whole numbers. We don't say 1 whole, 2 wholes, 3 wholes, because that's just kind of understood that you mean a whole thing. When you start talking about parts, then we kind of use some different terminology. When I start looking at fractions, I like to look at cake because, well, I can have a square cake, and everybody's familiar with cake. We've all shared cake before. So when we're looking at this cake and we decide that we're going to share this cake with some friends, we have to cut the cake into slices. So let's say we come over here and we cut this cake in half. That means the cake has been cut into 2 slices. I like to put the cake knife here as my symbol for the line between the top and the bottom part of the fraction because it helps me understand which part is which. So if I were helping in the kitchen and my mom or dad or whoever takes care of me asked me to cut the birthday cake, I would cut down. I wouldn't cut up because that would be dangerous. So I would take the knife and I would cut down through the cake. So I like to think of this bar as the knife, and it cuts down. So that lets me know the number on the bottom is what I have cut the cake into. I've used the knife to cut the cake into 2 slices. The number on the top is going to be how much of the cake I'm talking about. So if I get one of these slices of cake, the number on top will be 1 because that's how much, that's the part of the cake that I got. I got 1 out of the 2 slices. So let's say I cut this cake. I'm having 4 friends over, and so I'm going to cut this cake into 4 slices. And the idea behind cutting the cake into slices is that we want to make them equal. Everybody wants an equal piece. Nobody wants to go to a party where one person gets a really big piece and the other person gets a really small piece. So now I've cut my cake into 4 slices. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So the number on the bottom, the denominator, is going to be 4 because that's what I've cut the cake into. The number on the bottom, the denominator, D down denominator, is always going to be what the whole thing has been cut into. And then the number on the top is how much somebody gets or how much is left behind. It's the part of it that you're working with. So in this case, if I get one of these slices, the 1 goes on top because that's how much I get, and the 4 goes on the bottom because that's what the whole is cut into. Now that we understand the terminology, we know which number is which. The denominator is what the whole is cut into, and the numerator, the number on top, is the part of it that I'm going to be working with. Now we can start to compare. So a lot of folks get confused, and they think that a fraction is bigger if any of the numbers is bigger. And that's just not true. It's important to know which number. So if we compare these 2 fractions, 1/2 and 1/4. Well, you might say that this one is bigger, but if we look at it, it's really not. The number on the bottom is how many pieces I'm sharing my cake with, and then the number on the top is how much of that cake I actually get. So if I get 1/4 of the cake, that means I get 1 of these pieces of a cake that I'm sharing with 4 people. If I get 1/2 of the cake, though, that means I'm getting 1 of these pieces that I'm only sharing with 2 people. So clearly 1/2 is bigger than 1/4. Okay? So if the number on the bottom is bigger, it actually means that, and the number on the top is the same, it actually means that the fraction is smaller. So just always think of it as how many people I'm sharing it with. If the number on the bottom is bigger, I'm sharing it with that many people. So think of it this way. If you were at a party and you only had to share your cake with 1 other person, would you get a bigger slice than if you were at a party and you had to share your cake with 100 other people? You'd get a pretty small piece of cake because it's going to be cut into 100 slices and you're only getting 1. Okay? So let's look at the top number because the top number works differently. With the top number, again, the bottom number is still what I'm cutting it into. So if I cut my cake into 4 slices, and you cut your cake into 4 slices. So both of our cakes have been cut into 4 slices. So the number on the bottom is what we've cut it into. Both have been cut into 4. The number on the bottom is going to be 4, but I'm going to get 2 slices. I get 2 of my slices, and you only get 1. I like this deal. Now in this case, if the number on the top is bigger and the number on the bottom is the same, then my fraction is bigger. I get 2 slices, but you only get 1. Who got more? I got more. The important thing is, though, that the cake slices were the same. And you always have to assume that your cake is the same size. Now, if you have a great big cake and I have a little tiny cake, then we can't compare anymore because your cake is bigger than mine. So even if you cut your cake in half and I cut my cake in half, half of a much bigger cake is still going to be bigger. So whenever we compare fractions, we have to make sure that our whole is the same size. And then it just depends on whether it's the number on the top or the bottom. Again, the number on the bottom is how many people I have to share it with. The more people I have to share it with, the smaller my cake is going, the smaller my slice is going to be. The fewer people I share it with, the bigger my slice is going to be. On the other hand, if I cut my cake into the same number of slices and I get more of those slices, then I had a bigger piece. Does that make sense? So let's practice. Let's compare some fractions. In this first pairing, I have a different number on the bottom. The denominator is different, and I have the same number on the top. The numerator is the same. So how do I compare them? Well, I have to remember that the knife cuts down, and so the number on the bottom is how many my cake is cut into. So this cake is cut into 3 slices. Let's go ahead and cut that cake. That means I have to share this with 3 people. There's 3 of us that are going to eat this cake. In the next case, I'm going to share it with how many people? Or there's how many people that are going to eat this? 10 people. So let's cut this into 10 slices. My lines aren't perfect, but you get the idea. They should be perfectly even slices, and they're not, but you get the idea. In this case, I'm getting 1 of these slices. In this case, I'm getting 1 of these slices because the number on top tells me how many I'm getting. I get a much bigger piece if I only have to share it among 3 people. I get a much smaller piece if I have to share it among 10 people. Let's look at this next example and see if you can tell me ahead of time which one is going to be bigger. Here, I'm cutting my cake into 4 slices and I get 1. Here, I'm cutting my cake into 20 slices and I get 1. Which one do you think is bigger? 1 out of 4 slices or 1 out of 20 slices? So here's what 1 of 4 slices look like, and here's what 1 of 20 slices looks like. I would be much happier only sharing with 4 people than 20 people. Okay, so that's when the number on the bottom is different and the number on the top is the same. Let's look at when the number on the bottom is the same and the number on top is different. In this case, we're cutting the cake into the same number of slices. What changes is how much I get. So in this case, this first cake, we've cut into 6. So when the number on the bottom is the same, we can see that both cakes are the same size and both cakes are cut into 6 pieces. But in this case, I'm going to get 2 of them. I get 2 slices. And in this case, I get 4 slices. Imagine if somebody said, hey, do you want some more cake? Here, have another slice. Here, have another slice. So 2 slices of cakes cut into the same size pieces is going to be less than 4 slices of cakes cut into the same size pieces. Let's take a look at this one. 1 out of 8 or 7 out of 8? Which one do you want? Do you want to get just 1 slice or do you want to get 7 slices? 7 slices is bigger. So how you compare fractions depends on the numbers, whether the number on the top is the same, whether the number on the bottom is the same. So if you wind up with fractions where the 2 numbers are different, like for example, let's say you had 3/4 and 1/20, well, the best thing to do in that case, there's some tricks that your teacher can show you later on, but for now, the best thing is to convert them into equivalent fractions. And I have a separate video on that. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped.